There were two working titles for this album. One of them was Sex and Death, and the other one was Melancholic Euphoria. And I guess that kind of sums up the sort of things that we're aiming for. Most of the songs are about sex and death, usually simultaneously.
Always and always and always ascending. Opening line leads an uncertain ending. Always and always and always ascending. The chord seems to...
When we started making this new record, Always Ascending, we really felt that we'd finished a decade of the band's life, and we were beginning a new decade. And when you're at a point like that in your career and your life, you have to decide, are you going to remain in the previous decade and repeat what you've done in that decade for the rest of your life, or do you look to the future? And when it was originally the three of us who were continuing with the band, we said, no, we want to look to the future. And that really informed every decision that we made about the sound of this record. That we were looking to find sounds that we hadn't before, and to write in a way that we hadn't before, and maybe approach lyrics in a way that we hadn't before. We kind of almost inverted the writing process that usually happens. You know, quite often a band will sort of like write something on an acoustic guitar and then arrange it using the computer so it's sequenced. For quite a lot of songs on this record, we would write using the computer and would sequence things and write in a very technologically contemporary way, and then learn it as a band and learn to perform it.
We aimed to work, when we were recording the record, quickly and live. So most things that you hear on the record is literally just the sound of the four of us playing in the room. On some songs, even the vocals are those that we were recording simultaneously while we were playing the instruments. We wanted to capture the live feeling of the band by having live drums with no click track. So you get the push and pull of humans playing music, and that's a constant across the record. So no matter what you hear, like that sounds like electronic dance music, it's the human beings playing it.
Another way that we recorded, which is the opposite to the way bands often work, is we rehearsed for a long time before we went in to make the record. So Julian joined us in August of 2016, and we recorded at the end of February, beginning of March 2017. And so over those months, we rehearsed a lot until we could play the songs, so we knew the songs inside out. Yeah. And it was almost like a really old school way of going to the studio, because we tracked the album in 6 days, which is quite an old-fashioned way to sort of do it. And quite like the way bands often do their first album. So it was almost like we were making a first album for the second time in terms of recording.
Why don't you come over here? Why don't you come over here? Why don't you come over here? Why don't you come over here?
I listen to music because I want to feel a particular way. Not primarily because it makes me think a particular way or I don't analyze it. Sure, all those things happen, but the primary reason is to feel something. The listening experience that I aim for in making music is what I look for when I search out music to listen to myself.
I have some very nice headphones, which is my favourite way to listen to music. I have since I was a teenager. You know, my formative experiences as a music fan is kind of sitting on the school bus with my Walkman, and that's kind of like where I feel closest to the music, and when I've had my most favourite experiences as a listener is just like the very personal nature of having it right in your ears and blocking out the world.
See the things that you do. See the things that you do and not who.
Well, as a fan of music, some of my favourite recordings are bootlegs of bands, my favourite bands. Like when I was in my late teens, I had like a 4th generation cassette copy of Stuart Murdoch singing some really early songs by himself. And I don't know where the tape is now, and I can't remember what the songs were called. But it was so precious.
I've got a copy of that.
Oh, right, okay.
To me as a demo.
Right, okay.
Like, yeah.
So I ended up with a copy of that in Bradford somehow. Came round through the early chat rooms of the internet, and also I'm a huge Magnetic Fields fan, and they have dozens of bootlegs available. And there's certain songs from the early albums that Stephen Merrick doesn't sing, but he sings them live. So I would seek those songs out because it added something new to the performance, having his voice on it. And they're really special to me. And I didn't care slightly about the quality because they're hissy, and they are, it's like, I don't know where the recording was, if it came from the desk or not, because you have the audience sound, and it's not particularly well mixed. But it's just the performance of the song that I was kind of like, that was the key thing for me.
Yeah, it's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like a lot of old Greek music from the 1920s and 1930s, and those recordings are pretty primitive. And there's something about the nature of those recordings that makes you feel like you're peeking through a keyhole into the past.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And there is something that you appreciate about that. And sometimes you hear those recordings when they're being cleaned up and they don't quite have the charm about them, which is perverse because it's the performance that really counts. So I can still enjoy a good performance, but I enjoy it more if it's recorded well. I like good quality. The person who first really inspired me to make music was my friend Andrew. I used to walk home from school with Andrew every day. We used to walk home the same way, and we both started playing guitar about the same time as each other, both got into that. And we tried to play Beatles songs, but we didn't know enough chords to play Beatles songs. So we took the chords that we did know how to play and made up our own songs with them instead. And we inspired each other. We encouraged each other to play. The first song we ever recorded was Oh Well by Fleetwood Mac. Not the Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks Fleetwood Mac, but the older Peter Green Fleetwood Mac. And I still love that song. It's amazing. And that song encapsulated everything I felt at that age, 15 or whatever. And I still love the lyric. The lyric of it goes, can't help about the shape I'm in, I can't sing, I ain't pretty and my legs are thin, but don't ask me what I think of you, I might not give the answer that you want me to. Great line. And my legs were thin and I couldn't sing and I was a bit snotty, so it was a great song.
Let the love go. Let the love go.